Hello, everyone. Welcome to eLearnChat, where you always learn something new. And today will be no exception. I am joined today by, well, it's not really Leslie, it's Harold. He thought he was Leslie and came in her place. Now, Leslie couldn't make it today. She decided to get her mouth drilled. Painful dentist visit. But we've got Harold Muliati with us. He's our video producer, and he's joining us. How you doing, Harold?
Good. And, show Leslie support. Go check out learnappeal.org.uk. It's Leslie's charity. It's a good charity.
Take a look at it. They really do good work, and they're trying to get education and training to people who don't have easy access to training or education for that matter. So good job. And today we've got with us back for, I think it's visit number 442 this year. We've got Ajay Pangarkar with us. He's a good friend, and he's one of the best guys in e-learning, and frankly, just about anything. We love him to death. Here we go. This show is sponsored by Relay Corporation. Digital learning development, media development, corporate video, management consulting, and more. Visit us at www.relate.com. Thanks. And we are back in that center position of power again. He's used to that. It's his permanent seat, I think. We've got Ajay Pangarkar with us. How you doing, Ajay?
Rick, I'm going to make you my publicist moving forward here. Your intros are fantastic, so I just got to drag you around with me wherever I go. Just
I can do that. I can do that. I have no friends.
I cannot follow me. You need to be in front of me by 5 seconds so you can introduce me, because you do an awesome job. I don't know if I can live up to those expectations. Thank you.
No, I only covered part of it, so if you want more, we can give you more. Tell you what, I'll do a recording for you. You can play it anytime you want. How's that?
It'll be my incoming voicemail message.
That's right. You've reached Ajay Pangarkar. I'm not here right now. Leave your message. Okay. Well, you got a great topic today, and that's organizational training, or what is it? Operationalizing training.
Operationalizing your learning strategy to align with your key performance indicators.
That is a really good topic. I know a lot of people are probably going, "Oh, what? What does that mean?" It means operations are important, and if you can, I'll let you say what it means, because you wrote the article on it, and it's a great article. It really talks to what a key performance indicator is. These are important things to know. Whether you're in training or just working for any company, what drives that company? What makes that company tick mentally and productively?
Yeah. So what's important. What I think what I'm trying to get across is a couple of things. One is that majority of our interactions in learning is to help the company to operationalize themselves better, right? More effectively, more efficiently, better performance. And our purpose in learning is to make those people who are in the operations to become more effective in their roles. And that's really what learning is about in organizations. Now, the other reason I sort of wrote this is because, as you know, Rick, and maybe Harold a little bit too, my background, as you know, is a CPA. And my finance, and I also have a finance background, and that's the world that I come from initially. And my position on training ROI. I'm not a big fan, and that's being polite about it, because to use the term ROI so loosely is inappropriate, especially when you're talking to key stakeholders. People think it's a bunch of semantics, but it isn't. When you're talking to stakeholders who are trained and educated in business and finance and accounting, and you use terms that are very specific like that, you're going to get yourself in trouble. So to that end, I said, well, the answer is not to do an ROI per se, the way people are proposing it, but there's an easier way, and it's right under your nose, and it's to tie into those key performance indicators that exist in the organizations already. And that's where the emphasis of the article came from, to operationalize your learning strategy to KPIs.
And the interesting thing about that, I've had that argument with people a lot about ROI, and I think ROI is important. The thing about ROI, though, is it has to be measured differently for every different department. It's not always the same return And it may not be a return anybody notices for years. It takes time, especially in training.
Well, and there's certain rules around it. I mean, like I said, I pre-qualify this because a couple of things I want to pre-qualify. One, people are watching this and think, well, okay, Ajay's at it again. He's, proposing and pushing something that he believes in. No, this is not. I mean, yes, I do believe in it, but it's not something I'm pushing. It is something that I didn't come up with. You can open any finance accounting textbook and find the rules around return on investment. And when you have to remember this again, it's not semantics. You have to be very careful here because the stakeholders you're talking to are formally trained in this area. So their mind goes into that mindset. And so to your point, Rick, when you talk about ROI, there are rules that we're told when and when not to use ROI. And one of them is on what we call period expenses that are like training and marketing and so forth, that are not measured necessarily on an ROI basis because they don't have that long-term outcome like capital investments are meant to be measured on ROI. So there are some hard and fast rules. And again, it goes back to my last session with you and Leslie, that if you ask me the one skill that I think any L&D practitioner should have is they become business literate. Go take some fundamental business courses and understand it. Don't become experts, just understand it. And this will help you position your learning a lot better.
Well, let me ask you something, Ajay. And this is something I've yet not seen. Maybe you have because you're more tuned into the university environment as well because you teach. What have you ever seen any university curriculum for instructional technology or instructional design or even education and training that actually even covers an overview of what business is?
That's an argument I've had with, actually, I won't name university because I don't want to embarrass any universities or anything like that, but I've had, and there's people that you and I know in common that teach these programs in certain universities, both in US and Canada. And one that I had an argument with was with a university in Canada who has basically an e-learning instructional design program. And I looked at the curriculum and I gave them my point of view. Of course, they didn't care for it because, I'm calling their baby ugly, basically. And I said to them, no, your instructional side is very strong, but you're not minting out academics here. You're minting out people who are going into the workplace, in the work role. And if your curriculum is more geared to people who are, in your paradigm, going into an academic world. And when you're going into the workplace, it's a different dynamic. And so to your point, again, either they pay lip service to business literacy. When I say, I'm using a very generic term here, I'm talking, financial, any type of business component that requires some understanding, but they pay lip service to it or they don't cover it at all. And to me, that really frustrates me because at the end of the day, I keep saying this over and over again, learning in organization is a business function to help improve business, to deliver business impact. And again, it's all about business, not about learning. And so
no. When we get resumes and stuff, a lot of them say, first of all, never put an objective on a resume. It immediately puts you in a corner and you can't get out of it. But they'll always do that. They'll say things like, "I want to write great e-learning." Why?
Yeah.
My question: why? What do you want to do with it? I just want to have like really cool interactions. What for? I'm sort of nasty sometimes when it comes to, okay, you're gonna put yourself out there, then okay, let's give it to you a little bit and see how you handle stress, pressure, and see if you can think on your feet because you said something that doesn't make a lot of sense. You want to do great e-learning. That says nothing. That just says you have some sort of goal up in the cloud somewhere of what's good and what isn't or not. And how does that apply to business? Because when it comes down to it, if you're getting a job in a business company, then you need to kind of worry about what the business is all about. And I have heard more people, and I kid you not, from clients to others who have said, no, I don't want my people to learn the business. You just need to just create training. That's one of the most foolish things I've ever heard, and I hear it a lot. You need to learn the business. Otherwise, you'll be gone as soon as there's a layoff because you won't know anything. They're not valuable to the business.
So, it goes back to that point. And when you are, so this is where learning sort of wheels fall off when it comes to credibility within the organization. One is you need to understand the business. You need to understand the expectations. So let's use some example, sort of with this article that I wrote. When you're looking at key performance indicators, let's get out of learning for a second. Use something completely similar but unrelated, like marketing. Mm-hmm. In an organization, and I'm being very light about this, but in an organization, marketing does not talk about how great they created a marketing campaign, right? I mean, they may brag about it and say, hey, it's a beautiful marketing campaign, but it's not. It's about the effectiveness of the marketing campaign. And the marketing campaign is tied to very some key business metrics, things like, market share or revenue, or, these kind of key metrics that are tangible. And if they move the needle on those key metrics, those key performance indicators, then that marketing campaign has done its job. So it's not, yes, you have to create an effective marketing campaign, but the effectiveness of the marketing campaign is tied to those key performance indicators.
And I'll take that one step further from what you're saying. Yes, but the marketing people have one real major purpose, not only to get the product out there, but if the salespeople can't benefit from the marketing campaigns, then they've lost, because ultimately sales has to be better in order for marketing to succeed.
Yep. But again, we're arguing the same thing, Rick. These are all business key performance indicators, right? These are all needles that they are expected to move with that marketing campaign.
Mm-hmm. Let's take it a step back. Let's take it one step back, Ajay, for people who don't really understand what a key performance indicator is. How does a company determine what a key performance indicator is? And there's more than one. What determines that? For those who don't know, what would you say is important to know about a key performance indicator or KPI?
Okay, so shameless plug. I wrote a book on it called The Trainer's Balanced Scorecard, that speaks to about the performance metrics with how you tie learning to performance outcomes.
It's a good book, by the way.
A basic key performance indicator is our metrics that are established by the stakeholders of the organization at various levels, from the highest level, the corporate level, all the way down to operational. And they have these key performance metrics or measures, if you want to call it anything, that are tied into the ultimate objective of whatever a company is expected to do. So if I want to be, think about, I'll give you this, I think I used in the last, maybe a while ago, I used an example of a burger chain here that has a mission that if you buy a burger from this burger chain in Canada, a burger is a beautiful thing. Now that phrase has to carry some weight. So what does that mean to a customer, right? And then they cascade these metrics all the way down. What does it mean to that clerk who's making my burger for me in the kitchen, right? Or the one who's preparing it for me? What does that phrase mean to them? And what are those metrics there? So use a simple example down when I get operationally, that's a corporate mission. When I get operationally down into the person making the burger for me, that person making the burger, trust me on this, they do a wonderful job. And the company who trains them does a fantastic job of making this happen. They create this burger that is a beautiful thing. Even down having me look at it once it's done, down to wrapping it very carefully, to when I sit down and eat it and I open it up, it still looks the same. It's not like, I hate to use another competitor example, but I think we know what we're talking about. When you see the ads, the burger looks like one way, and then you get it looks something very different and not appealing. But when you put meaning behind the objective and these metrics, so that metric was measured to show that you can have the burger the way it's meant to look. So these performance metrics, whether it be tied to a financial metric or a qualitative metric, meaning that it could be tied to a sales expectation, it could be tied to market share, it could be tied to customer satisfaction, but you have to have some definition around that. And so when you tie to these metrics, their measures there, their expectations on those metrics to achieve, and at that point, that's what you're trying to move. That needle is what you're trying to move to make sure that things happen. I don't know if that was helpful.
I think that was good. Now, who in a corporation establishes the KPIs?
Who establishes the KPIs? Well, typically, when you're building a framework, a performance framework within an organization, it actually starts with the leadership of the organization, and they communicate down to the operations. And simply put, the leaders, the stakeholders of each operational area will feed up this is a back and forth. It's actually driven down to, translating that mission, that burger is a beautiful thing. And then they ask those operational leaders to say, okay, how do you make that happen in your area? How does that connect and drive those metrics back up? So what happens is what we call a cascading effect in the performance. So it starts off with these very high level metrics, and it moves down very more granular till it gets to that person making my burger and the customer buying it. And so at each level, there's a KPI that is connected. And if one of those KPIs, so it's basically a chain, right? It's a domino effect. If one of those KPIs do not get met, it's going to trigger not meeting all the other KPIs. And so it's a communicative process, and it's not. Here's the other thing I want to put out there, and I'll let you chime in here, Rick. It's not a learning and performance thing. It's not a learning and development tool. The performance framework is an organizational framework. It's driven by the business stakeholders. I teach it in accounting to the future accounting professionals out there. So this is not something on us. It's a holistic organizational process to measure performance of the organization, and we are just one cog in that wheel to make performance happen.
Now, many times, one of the issues with training and KPIs and that organizational framework is that training isn't included in the organizational framework. They're too far down. And that's one of the major issues. A company that really values training usually should elevate the training up a little bit more so that they're involved in the operational process, and then they understand what needs to be done. Many times they just get the stuff thrown at them. So I'm not defending training, because training should be a little more proactive and try to become part of that framework. But many times they're just either under HR, to me, one of the worst places to be put. I would prefer seeing training in ops, or even in marketing and sales, or training and development under HR if that's what they're doing most of their training for performance, or maybe at least for development, not so much performance. But that's something that I see as a fault in a lot of corporations. Training hasn't made itself that valuable in many corporations, so as a result, they're not included.
No, and I think I don't have an answer to that, Rick. I think you bring up a very valid point. To me, when it comes to training / learning within the organization, it's really, again, and this is a good and bad thing for me. I get called upon organizations who have a culture around that, meaning where I'm going with this is that it is very culturally established within the organization that learning and organizational learning is important. And I think in the past I've used very famous examples like Toyota or whatever, who've embedded learning within the organization, and it becomes part of the cultural fabric. So the people in Toyota, for example, are not the training people there are not necessarily afterthoughts or separate departments. They're actually and they're not under HR, to your point. They're really very well integrated into the cultural fabric of the operations of Toyota. And that's why Toyota leads in being so successful in the quality side of things of their product that even competitors have a hard time keeping up with. So again, it's to me, unfortunately, there's no straight answer to this. Yes, it is a two-way street, and I don't want L&D people to think I'm beating up on them. I'm not. To more extent, I think it's 60-40, meaning 60% default lays a little more on the L&D side, because we're always talking about learning and not talking about the outcomes, and not doing anything for our credibility. To our conversation before, Rick, about business. But there's also 40% of it of the leadership that don't necessarily take us seriously or don't have it embedded in the fabric and don't understand. However, that is changing, because I can guarantee this. If you look at survey after survey, within the top 5 preoccupations of leaders, senior leaders within organizations, learning and skills and knowledge within an organization is up in the top 5 preoccupations, which puts the spotlight on us. So let's pick up our socks and let's get moving.
And when he said preoccupations, we're not talking about something before you get an occupation, something people worry about. Yes, absolutely. And I'm worried, is Harold still with us? Because I miss him. He is. I think we bored him to death. No,
I am. And I was just thinking, so what you were talking about earlier, you were talking about, people or learning departments using the term ROI and not quite using it in the same way that other people in the other parts of the business understand it, not really the correct way, and just kind of using it as the buzzword of the day. Would you say that's just another symptom of of an organization where learning is just kind of disconnected from the other business functions.
Yeah, I think I've used this analogy with Rick, and I don't know if I did it on the show, Rick, or over dinner when we talked about this, but this is the analogy I use. And I know it's hard to believe, but I was a nerd in high school. I'm trying to be a little bit funny here, but and I know stand-up was not in my future. But when I was as a nerd in high school, I would try to listen into the cool kid conversation, right? And I would listen in to try to fit in. And then I hear them using certain terms and language, and then I say, oh, that's the terms I'm going to use, and I start using it, and inappropriately, of course, because I really don't know how to use it properly. And I get into the conversation, and they all look at me like I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
Now, and they shun me even more. Now, I'm being a little harsh about this, but learning and development is trying to be the nerd who's trying to be the cool kid here. They're latching on terms they think their business leaders want to hear, and they're not using it appropriately or properly or in the right context. And then you get the eye roll. I mean, I do get the eye roll. I've had a VP of operations call me once, who's a friend of mine, who said, Ajay, get your bleep down here and talk to our training department because they keep, selling this ROI stuff, and I need you to talk some sense into them because they're not making any sense.
Right.
And so I become almost like an interpreter and the translator when it comes to this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But here's the deal, Harold. If you give a little bit of business literacy here, here's the thing, right? I'm going to give a little takeaway for people at this point. There are what we call responsibility centers within an organization. And if you don't understand what the term responsibility centers, it's really simple. There's we call these centers profit centers, cost centers, and investment centers. Finance, marketing, learning and development, HR, manufacturing are all cost centers. Costs, you don't measure a return on investment on cost centers. Open up, don't take my word for it, please. Open up any management accounting textbook and look it up. I don't care where you are in the world, pick one up. You don't measure ROI on cost centers. And that's a hard, fast rule. And so when you start using ROI and saying, if we put so much money here, this is how we're going to contribute directly into sales or revenue, and this is the ROI, and we're paying ourselves back, you are shooting yourself in the foot because a couple of things. One, you don't measure an ROI cost center. And number two, you're painting yourself in a corner, taking credit for something that there's a lot of moving parts in an organization that may have contributed to that success as well. And if it goes south, you better be able to put yourself on the line too if you want to take the success. So, you just opened up a can of worms there, Harold.
Well, yeah, and whereas you can actually point to certain key performance indicators and say that training is affecting these, rather than saying, we're directly providing return on investment. Yeah.
So, although the KPIs, you're right. You shouldn't be painting yourself in a corner with the KPIs either. But at least the KPIs is what you're meant to improve, right? And there may be other elements that are involved in it too. But that's where you're going to build a lot of credibility by saying, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Manager, operational manager, what's your pressure? What's the pressure on you to achieve performance objectives with the organization? What are the key metrics that you need to adhere to, and why do you feel you're not maybe having our challenge to meet them? Is it something that is a skill set within the organization that you're missing? Maybe we can analyze that and find out where the skill gaps are, because if you need to meet that, then I'm going to help you move that needle. But what other factors are affecting that needle as well, right? So you need to be an investigator. You need to be a bit of a sleuth here to take out that magnifying glass and start talking to people. And that's the key. Stop sitting in your cubicle. Get your butts off your chairs and go talk to the people that you're meant to help improve. That's really simple as that, and get to know their business.
Now, I want to go back to the nerd thing because that was interesting.
You're a cool kid. What are you talking about?
No, I was not a cool kid. I was a total nerd. I had thick glasses growing up my whole life until pretty much.
That's hard to believe.
I was a total geekoid. Or not geek. I was a nerd. I look like a nerd, so therefore that was it. If anything saved me is the fact that I did sports, and I was a nerd, but I did sports. So that was kind of, how do you do that? He can actually communicate. That's weird. He must be really stupid. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when you play football with glasses on, it's sort of funny. I couldn't see without them. And I didn't wear contacts till I was probably in my mid-20s. So I was a total nerd. But the thing is, you call yourself a nerd, but you got the pretty gal. See, the pretty gals like the nerds.
Yeah, she was a smart one, right?
She's smart. She's smart.
She didn't want to go after the good-looking hunks who are stupid. She said she wanted her. She said she was going to bank this one, and of course she married the Bill Gates type kind of thing. Although I don't have the $1 billion in my bank account, but I'm getting there. It'll take a few hundred years, but I'll get there.
It's funny, but it is
you
funny.
Too, by the way, so let's not the pretty ones come after the nerds, so there you go.
They do, yeah. but that is funny. But I would never have considered you a nerd because again, I didn't know you during school or anything like that, and it strike me as a nerd because you can talk about it. I remember the first time we met in person, I think was at that TDL. I mean, we knew each other, but in person, I think was at the TDLC conference in San Diego. San Diego.
San Diego.
And you and I got into a political discussion, and we didn't agree on just about anything. And then I think we gave each other a hug, and hey,
that's what makes us great friends, by the way.
And I love it, and that's what I love about you, because we don't have to agree on things. We agree on a lot of things, and then we don't agree on some things. But there's that affection and respect and everything else, and that's what we're missing in society today. People are just so divided over the same thing usually. Meaning, we're not all that. Nobody's really that far apart. Maybe the way we get there is a little different, but hey, that's what compromise is all about. And nobody wants to compromise anymore. It's like, my gosh, and it's a shame because we lose so much richness in the conversations we have and everything else that it's not a good thing. I'll make jokes about. Conservatives, liberals, I don't care. I mean, they're both worthy of being joked about. But when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, hey, we're humans. We have the same needs. We eat. We go to the bathroom. We do everything we need to do. We're all doing the same stuff. And as guys, most of us want the pretty girl too or whatever. It's like, there's nothing wrong with that. So I remember that conversation well, and I really enjoyed it. I told Leslie when she came down, Leslie, my wife, and I said, yeah, Ajay's cool. We had a great conversation. So, it's funny the things you remember.
To your point, Rick, you bring up a very valid point, because that message you're trying to convey here speaks to the people in L&D. Now, don't get me wrong. I know a lot of good people in L&D are very proactive, very well-rounded, and they have those conversations, but I know a lot as well. You and I know a lot of people as well who are so stuck in their silos and their bubbles that they're not having those conversations and learning about other people, because it's not about, at the end of the day, for any functioning organization, it's not about them. It's about the organization's outcome and the performance. Yeah. And so ultimately, your role is your subject expertise, but it's to use that subject expertise to move this organization forward towards what they want to achieve, and whatever your role is playing. And so that's the conversations you need to start having, because there are what we call this, if you go back, and I'm going to get a little theoretical here. So I know you know this stuff, and Harold probably does too. Michael Porter, the strategist, economist at Harvard Business School, look him up. He's written a lot of great stuff. Back in the 80s, came up with something called the value chain, and all organizations follow a value chain. And in the value chain, there's what we call the primary activities, which is all the way from manufacturing all the way out to output, and then there's all the supporting activities. And I wrote this, and I didn't give Harold a link, but I wrote a free research paper for CPA Canada called Rethinking Organizational Strategy. And what I was talking about there is that typically in the traditional role of business would focus on the primary activities, manufacturing to output, and the supporting activities would just be sort of an ancillary to support HR, finance, that kind of stuff. But what's happening lately, if you watch organizations very diligently, it's a very quiet, it's a very subtle and quiet revolution in strategy that's not spoken about, but I speak about it in this paper. When you look at some of the leading strategic organizations, like, for example, an Amazon or a Google or a Starbucks or even a Toyota, these organizations have realized that the supporting functions are their drivers. So when we talk about worries and preoccupations, meaning knowledge within the organization, today to differentiate yourself is not having a better widget to sell with a better feature on it. Take Apple, for example, against Samsung, right? Both of them know that they both have phones or, tablets or whatever it is. They both have it, but what differentiates them is not necessarily always just the features. there's an intrinsic quality in there within the organization that speaks to strategy, which part of it is within the knowledge built within the organization to drive better, we'll call it innovation for lack of a better term, but a renewed thinking within the organization that drives the organization. So while the product is important still, it's not what's going to get you market share anymore alone. And it's an important thing. And I'm very passionate about this because I think learning has so much to give and contribute to this new way of thinking in organizations. It's impressive that I still see so many people don't get it, and it shocks me to no end. And that's, to your point, we need to start having these conversations. That's your first step. Don't start. There's no saying you don't eat an elephant in one sitting. By the way, I'm an animal lover, but you take small bites to get through it, right? So don't eat this elephant in one sitting. The small bite is get off your chair, find an operational department, go schedule like 4 meetings once every 2 weeks with them for 1 hour, and say just learn about their business. Get to know them. They will appreciate it because when they go spend money, it's their money you're spending, by the way, on your efforts. You will be able to deliver something that meets what they need. And that's really as simple as that. And there's your credibility build, and there's your communication.
And I've just posted the link to that rethinking organizational strategy there in the live stream notes. And it'll if you're watching this on YouTube, it'll be in the description.
Yep. And
Thank you, Harold.
And with that,
I have a course on operationalizing with LinkedIn Learning. Another shameful plug. I'm sorry, Harold. Rick.
No, go ahead.
I think you have that link too. It's a LinkedIn Learning course that speaks to what we're talking about today. And it's a very short course. It's like 40 minutes. So people have a little spare time on their lunch hour. They can take it and get a lot of insight, more than hear me ramble with you, Rick.
Yep. No, this is great. And we are basically out of time. We could go on for a long time, but this is good.
I love being here with you guys.
Yeah, fantastic. We'll have to have you back on because
Harold's not as good looking as Leslie, but I told him that already, so we're good.
Leslie will come back and kill him next week. So, anyway, well, we hope you're enjoying the show and a little food for thought. Get out of the comfort zone a little bit, and I think we've been on almost 12 years, and we've been saying for years, if you don't want to get laid off, if you don't want to get fired, usually it's sales and training that go first. There's a reason for that. You got to know your business. You have to be able to say you do something for the business or they won't care. You just become overhead, and that's not a good place to be sometimes. So, get involved, do something like Ajay says, learn a little bit about business. Business is not that hard. It's actually pretty commonsensical. And the more you know, and I used to do that with IT. I was an IT pro for the larger part of my life, and in management, I'd go in and say, "Okay, you guys got to learn the business," and they're like, "Huh, he's the Antichrist, kill him." Literally, it's like
may I add, Rick? We're talking about the learning profession, but sometimes I find the learning profession is the most resistant to learning.
I know that's
I'm
funny.
Not asking.
Well, I'm
asking you to continue to learn, right? I mean, that's what I'm asking.
That's like engineers who create all sorts of things and they're resistant to change. Doctors never want to change. Okay, the body doesn't change a heck of a lot. They have a point there, but everything else does. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, well, hey, we appreciate you coming on with us. We hope everything is well with you, and say hi to Terry for us. And if you're watching the show, please leave your feedback below, and we'll see you next week on eLearnChat. Have a good one, everyone. Bye-bye. Thanks, Ajay.
Bye, everyone.